Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Andres, and today I'll be talking about this big boy right here, Dune. I finally read Dune. It's I watched the first movie when it came out, and I did not watch the second one, even though I loved the first one. Don't ask me why. I still question why I didn't to this day. I guess I just got caught up in things and I forgot about it. And then I always kept thinking to myself, I'll read the book before I watch the next movie. That way I'll feel like more fulfilled. And yeah, now I'm done reading the book. I want to go over in a spoiler free fashion, as much spoiler free as I can, go over the things I liked, the things I was mixed about, and the things I disliked about the book. But overall impressions is I loved it. I think Dune is fantastic. I think Dune is unique. Even I don't know. Dune feels like its own thing because it's just this weird mix of like fantasy, sci-fi, technologies, the Middle East, and like 70s, 60s, 60s, I guess it was written, or like psychedelia and like drugs. So it's just a very interesting mix. So yeah, the first thing I really liked was just the setting, the worlds, the cultures as a whole, the technologies. It just felt like such a fulfilled world. All these factions in play are just so interesting. Like the Ben Gesserit, the House of Atreides, the Emperor, and then like this setting of like the royal houses with the one emperor, the Harkonnens as well. They're so characteristically evil, and funny in a lot of ways. The Baron is pretty funny. But besides that, also the Fremen get so much of a focus later on in the story, and it's such an interesting and like completely just fulfilled culture. Like it's Frank Herbert must have done so much research into like Arabic cultures, Muslim cultures, and also like nomad cultures in the Middle East to come up with this idea, because it just feels like, even with the language used with them, it just feels so real and lived in this world, in the world of Arrakis or Dune. It just makes complete sense in my head, and that's the biggest thing that I loved about this book. The just this setting, it just opens up so many things from the beginning, because there's just so many characters and so many powers and factions in play that each want have their own interests. There's no single like side of good and evil. The Ben Gesserit wants something different than the Emperor, even though the mother of the Ben Gesserit works for the Emperor. The Fremen, they want something different than Paul. So like it's very interesting to see Lady Jessica. Lady Jessica, actually, she's probably my favorite character in the story, because she's kind of like a bystander to a degree of the actions and the journey her son's going through, and she has really conflicting feelings about the things he's doing. And yeah, she like has moments of like proudness to her son, but then she has moments where she feels sad that he has to go through this and like has to suffer with all this pain because of like prophecy, etc., and whatever. But yeah, she was my favorite character. But Paul also is a great character. I would say by the first half of the book, Lady Jessica is kind of the main character, and then it parts two and three make it so that Paul becomes the main character. I would say like all the focus goes to him. But yeah, Paul, such an interesting character to talk about also online. I don't think you will find very definitive answers from people about how you're supposed to feel with Paul, about Paul. Like, are you supposed to take him as a good guy? Or are you supposed to take him as a bad guy? Or are you supposed to take him as somewhere in the middle? Or are you supposed to take him as a guy that was just put into a position he didn't want, and he just kind of, have to roll with it? Are some of his actions necessary? Are they not necessary? Because he could he have stopped what is to come? There's just so many questions to have that just are grounds for such interesting and fun conversation and discussion that has probably been had for the last 60 years since the book came out. It's crazy. This book came out in the 60s. This book could have been written like yesterday, and if I feel like it still would have hit. This brings me to the biggest thing I'm mixed about, which is there's a lot of terminology that's either made up or comes from like Arabic. I think the Arabic language and other probably other languages as well, that Frank Herbert uses. And he does have like a glossary at the end of at least this copy. I'm assuming all copies have a glossary at the end, but you will at the beginning, the first half of the book, you will definitely go through this glossary many times. Or what I did is I just Googled it. I had my phone right next to me, and I would just Google it because it's much faster than just like flipping back and forth um, with the glossary and where you're reading. So yeah, you'll have to learn a lot of words, but also the reason I feel mixed about it because it is a negative in the sense that it kind of hurts the reading experience. But then at the same time, once you start learning the words and you start, and also some words just make sense based on the context of them being used, it feels more immersive that these words are being used. It feels more like how they're actually talking, and we're not just getting like a translation in plain English of what they're actually saying in the story. So I am mixed about it, but yeah, it is definitely something to keep in mind. And then I'm just gonna move to the things I dislike, which are not very many. I wish we saw more. There's like several time skips in the story, especially by parts book two and book three within the book. And I wish we saw more of this time between these time skips. Just it felt like at some point we were just dropped into scenes and had to fill in the blanks between what happened in those points in time, or the characters would fill in the blanks for us in conversation, but not fully. So yeah, I mean, I guess this is also make be considered a positive that I just wanted more of a book in some ways. That hey, this could have been written into three literal separate books rather than just one. But yeah, I mean, I wish we just had more filling in the blanks of the stuff that's going on in between the time skips. First part is just I think the first movie. It's all kind of exposition of the setting, trying to get you to understand the setting, the world. There's stuff that goes on, but the plot of the first part is, if you boil it down to the events, it's like a 5 sentence plot, but you have to add all the characters, finding out who they are, how they play into things, all the factions and so on. So that might detract from some people where they're like, oh, I have to read the first part to get to the good stuff. I consider the first part the good stuff too. I like the explanations of everything. It was interesting to me, but some people might get bored. And I've seen like in Storygraph, which is what I use to log and collect like all the books I read, that it's considered a slow paced book. I would not consider this a slow paced book. I would consider the first half slow paced, that first part, because it's all exposition for the most part, and with some, with thoughts and story and some story and plot going on in between. But then the third and second part, I would consider it fast paced. Things we just drop into scenes, they happen. We skip in the future and go on to other scenes and other stuff happening for the most part. So I would consider it medium when combining both sides, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's really my only complaint. That like also with the ending, we have like a climax that in some ways felt rushed in my opinion, and then the book just ends with I would say no real resolution of what's to come next. And I'm not sure if Frank Herbert, from what I understand, he wasn't planning on writing books after this one. I might be wrong. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. Initially, he wasn't going to write more books, but because of the reaction of people of how they maybe misunderstood the story and what he was trying to say with the main character, he decided to keep writing. But I think regardless, it's essential, I think, to keep writing, because it just feels like there's just so much to be told still about what's to come after Paul's journey that he's had so far, and what comes next. So I'll definitely be checking out Dune Messiah at the very least. I'm probably not going to read the other books, just because I was pretty satisfied with this book. Besides just I just wanted to see what comes right after. At least as of now, I'm not really interested with much more besides that. I feel like this is a self-contained story that could have had maybe 100 more pages of what's to come after, and it would have made sense. But yeah, that's really it. I mean, I don't really have anything bad aside from that, but yeah, that's really it. I don't really have anything bad to say besides that. I love this book. I will definitely it'll be a book I come back to in like a few years and reread. I would give this book a 9 out of 10 personally. It's not the greatest book I've ever read, but I think it's a fantastic book. It's timeless in my opinion. It's been 60 years or so since, or 50 or 60 years since this book was written, and it feels like it just came out yesterday. um Read it definitely. If you, especially if you haven't seen the movies, read this before. I know like it's been already like what, a year and a half since the second movie came out, but even if you've watched the movies, you should definitely read it, because you will definitely get something out of something unique out of it, because in the book there's a lot of inner monologue with from many characters, not just Paul but Lady Jessica, and even like side characters, that gives a lot of context and gives a lot of personality to them. So yeah, definitely read the book. I watched the first movie and I still enjoyed the first part of the book. So yeah, his writing I think was great. It's not like the fanciest writing ever. I think it works for the story. It's not like very poetic, I guess, although he likes to talk poetically about like the sun coming out in Arrakis and the moon lighting and stuff. But besides that, it's not very much poetic. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about Dune, the book. Do you like it? Do you like the movies more? What are your thoughts about Paul as a character, about Lady Jessica as a character? Who was your favorite character in the story? Yeah, let me know in the comments down below. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.